Hi there, Stuart H on the Facebook group and Hardboil on the Homebrew forums. I'm here today to do a unboxing of the BrewDevil 50 litre. I got the pre-order kit from Paul at Angel Homebrew, so I'm going to run through what's in the base kit, what's in that kit. I also ordered some extras, which over behind me. I will run you through those. And give you a bit of an idea of what I bought. I might do some follow-up videos fitting some of the additional items, talk about the assembly. I'll talk a little bit about why I bought this unit. As some of the people with a keen eye can see behind me, I do already have a system. It's a brew in the bag system I built myself. It contains most of the elements you'll find in the BrewDevil. But my main reason for buying the BrewDevil was because it allows you to be part of a kind of wider brewing community. This unit, lots of people have this unit. It'll operate in a very similar way. You can share recipes, and the only thing that really varies is what you obviously put in that unit in terms of water, grain, hops, etc. So it's just nice to be part of a more brewing community, something you don't get when you build a custom system your own. You never quite know whether the changes you're seeing on your system are repeatable elsewhere. So that was my main reason for buying it. The secondary benefit for me is obviously the additional levels of automation. I do and have built controllers with timers, temperature controllers, power controllers, etc. But being able to stage so many minutes for such a temperature for so long is a sort of added benefit for me. It means I can get a little bit more done on my brew day. I can be maybe bottling an old brew, or cleaning some equipment that I'll need for later in the day. So those are some of the reasons that I purchased this kit. I've been using Paul for a while. The brew kettle behind me came from Paul, and some other bits did from Paul at Angel Homebrewing. So I really like Paul. He achieves what I would consider to be some of the best customer service you can get. He puts to shame big corporations, in my opinion. So what did I buy? I bought the BrewDevil pre-order kit, 50 litre. I bought the BrewDevil back flush adapter. I bought the BrewDevil sight glass kit with the drain option T add-on. So I'll talk you through. There's a couple of different options there, so I'll talk you through those. A couple of shout-outs. Jamie at Bathtub Brews, great guy. Done quite a few videos. Saw his some of his reviews of the BrewDevil and the controller, so thanks to him. And obviously Sarah at Daft Cat, she's very active in the community, got lots of vids on different stuff. So just a quick rundown of what's in this kit that's not in the standard kit if you just buy the 50 litre BrewDevil. So you get the wort chiller brass connectors, so that's for putting your water fittings on. You get a neoprene jacket for the boiler. You get the whirlpool arm. You get the hop spider. You get the hop bazooka, 3/8 silicone hose, and it listed in the optional extras was also the extra feet on the malt pipe. Now I didn't know. I don't know whether the later generations of the 50 litre have that anyway. Actually, it's super handy to have that on there. Maybe if you can tell me if you've got a 50 litre and you've had it a while, does it have the second set of feet? I'll point them out as we're going. I don't know the answer to that, but it was listed as an optional extra. So let's get into the kit. So full disclosure, I bought this kit, paid full price for it. I'm not getting any remuneration, any gifts, anything for this review. It's just for the community. I like being part of the Facebook group. It's a great group of people who help each other out. So this is really for people coming along who are looking to buy BrewDevils and want to understand what's in the box and what all the different component bits do. There are other great unboxing videos out there. This is just my one. It's just something I like to do. So bear with me. But I will do some follow-up videos around fitting things like the sight glass, etc. So those are things you may not have seen or may not have been recorded so far. So, so another point, I have been through the kit and just made sure everything's there. I also wanted to read the instruction booklet because I wanted to use the correct terminology for each component. So quite often people will describe the malt pipe interchangeably as a malt pipe or grain basket. This is in my opinion, this is grain basket. It's mesh all the way around, mesh on the bottom, has a handle, etc. Whereas a malt pipe is solid and has mesh on the bottom. So just some subtle differences, but I wanted to use the correct language as per the instructions so that you knew what I was talking about. Overflow assembly instructions, we'll talk about that as well. So this was one of the optional extras. It's just stickers for the overflow pipe, sorry, not the overflow pipe, for the sight glass, so that you know exactly how much is in your BrewDevil. Just a quick comment on volumes. One of the only things that you can accurately predict is how much liquid you're either putting in, boiling off, moving to the fermenter, etc. You never quite know when you get grain or hops whether the IBUs are right, you know, how much starch you're going to get to convert to sugar with the grain. I mean, it's reasonably reliable, but one of the things you absolutely can control is the liquid and the volumes. So being really accurate with those will help, I guess, limit the impact of variations in things like bitterness or the amount of starch in particular grains, despite what it might say on the packet. So just bear that in mind, that doing the liquid quantities right, I think, is worth the effort. Get yourself a decent large 5 litre jug with, you know, a good graded scale on it, and check the graded scale. I'm going to use this. I'll record a video on setting the sight glass up and then putting the measuring lines on it. You know, you need to be really patient with it. You need to pour it, walk away, let it settle, etc. So this is, you know, so worth getting, because you don't want to be measuring what's going into the fermenter by eye, or what's, you know, currently in the if you've got an HLT, you know, what's in there, what are you transferring across? You kind of want to know. So that's one of my favourite brewing accessories, believe it or not. So let's get into the box. So what we've got is the bottom screen and the top screen. Oh, I have unwrapped some of this stuff already, because the unwrapping process can be quite noisy, and you know, this video is probably going to be long enough as it is, and you may actually want to pause it, make a cup of tea and come back. But bottom screen, top screen. Saw a good tip from Sarah, Daft Cat Brewing, around which way to assemble this. Some people assemble it this way down, so I guess that's concaved. So hopefully you can see that on the overhead. It's concave this way, convexed if you turn it over. If you assemble it from with a bulge on the convex up, it goes through the action of, when the weight of the grain is pushed on, it actually flares this out and pushes it into the malt pipe, securing it. If you do it this way, it's actually bending it down and shrinking the outside diameter of the mesh. So definitely assemble it that way. Obviously, also that's going to give you whatever's sticking out the bottom is slightly protected by the bulge. So the top plate has 2 flagpole handles, so they're just secured by a screw. You can pretty much assemble this unit with a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, and you can probably need a standing knife for unwrapping it, but go easy, of course. So that's the top plate, bottom plate. I'm going to assemble those in a bit. So next thing to come out is the lid, tempered glass. It's got a hole in it. This is for the recirculation pipe. Hey, it's a lid. Good quality though. So pulling out, this is the overflow pipe. This obviously fits into the screen. In fact, why don't we assemble that now? Now you've got a couple of options here. Obviously you can assemble this with the short piece, the long piece, or the short and long piece, depending on the size of your grain bill. So if you're doing 10 litres, you maybe want the small one. If you're doing sort of 12 to 15, you might want this one. And if you're doing a full 45 litre to 50 litre batch, you're probably going to want the whole thing. Paul has got in R&D at the moment a telescopic one. I have, you've probably seen in one of my other videos, I have built other telescopic ones. However, I'm experimenting at the moment because somebody commented on the group that these fall apart and or rust. due to this piece in the middle, I believe, is what they're referring to. The top and bottom fittings are stainless steel, so I think it's probably unlikely that those will rust, but I guess it may be possible that this piece will. They also stated theirs fell apart. Now I think that's to do with the method that was originally used for assembling this. If you watch my video, I do a slightly different method which allows you to put back all the component parts. In the original video I saw some of the bits were left out, the spacing bits inside were left out, so I think that's possibly why it fell apart. So hopefully that won't do that. What I will do is check out whether it rusts or not, so I'll come back to you on that one. So hopefully you can see this. What you have here is a sort of, should we say, a nut that goes into these BSP, I think they're either 1/2 inch or 3/4 BSP threaded fittings. They're couplings here, and this top one, hopefully you can see that, is only threaded half the way through, and that's for the top pipe. Pretty simple to assemble. Just place the threaded bit through the unit. Do that up, and again, as I said, one of the nice reasons for using the bulge up is actually it stands quite nicely on the desk. If it was the other way around, it's going to probably roll around and fall over. So that's pretty straightforward. You can have the top screen. That obviously just slides up and down, sits on the top of the grain bill, and then you can put this top back on, which just means that I guess you can, if you want to lift the whole thing out, you can. You don't need the top piece. You're going to end up playing around with these to get these to the height that you want. So yeah, not much to that, but I'll show you that fitted into the wall pipe. Obviously, if you've got the extendable one, you can just bring it up and down onto the top of the grain bill and fit it there exactly as you like. But I'm holding off on those at the moment because I've got some of the leftover stainless steel tube parts soaking in salty water to see if I can accelerate the rusting and see what happens with that. So we have the recirculation pipe. It's got a cam lock fitting on there. There's a cam lock fitting on the recirculation pipe from the pump. It's got a neoprene handle because this could have hot wort going through it, so you don't want to burn yourself. So that's useful that that's got that extra protection on there. Nobody wants to get burnt by sugary wort. Here's the hop spider. More than adequate. Hop spider's pretty basic kind of thing, just hangs in the side of the unit. You put your hops in here. Now, I think this is, looking at it, it's fine enough to deal with both pellet and flowers. The full flower or the petal. I'm trying to think, if I was steeping, would I recirc into this? Yeah, I might do. I might put the recirculation pipe into here and pump the wort through the hops while I was steeping, just to try to get that maximum sort of flow of liquid through the hops and get as much of the oils out of them as possible. If you're, I do have an existing grain basket, and hopefully you can see on the overhead that this one is a much finer mesh, this one's a much coarser mesh. I think I'd probably lean towards the coarser one if I can, but this one comes with a kit. I'll test this. I'm sure it's more than adequate for the job, and you're going to get a lot of hops in there. So yeah, hop basket. So this, obviously the hop basket was optional extra. What else was an optional extra so far? I think that's it so far. This is the whirlpool arm. Again, cam lock fitting, neoprene to protect you from the heat, and this is used in the steeping process for when you're doing hot whirlpooling. Now, if you're hot whirlpooling, quite often you're not going to be using a hot basket, the hot basket that we were just looking at. So it's catch-22. I think I'll probably try all these different things out. It's a great thing about the unit. It's plenty of options with it. Not done much whirlpooling in the past, so I'm super keen to try that out and see what benefit that has. So we have a box of goodies. We have a handle for the malt pipe. So set that aside there. We've got the 3/8 silicone hose, which most people just secure that on the recirc pipe, like so. It doesn't need to be tight. It's at atmospheric pressure, and then from the unit. You'll have the recirc going down, and you literally just lay the pipe down on top of the top mesh, and that just delivers the wort slightly, shall we say, more gracefully to the top of the grain bed. If you're just having it pouring out from here, what you might find is you get some channeling. People talk about channeling. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't used the unit yet, so I don't know how much of an impact that might be. But again, it's good to have that because you can then deliver the wort more, shall we say, gracefully onto the top of the bed. Obviously, the top mesh is going to help distribute the liquid anyway. So what else have we got here? This is the spares kit. I'll pull that. Those are bits that came with the pre-order package. These are the bits that would normally come with the BrewDevil anyway. So that's the top stop. So when you're doughing in, putting the grain into the malt pipe, ready for mashing, you just remove that, screw this on, and what that does is just stop any grain or any particulate matter going into the bottom of the unit, where it can, well, either clog the pump, maybe clog the outlet bazooka, stick to the bottom of the thing and burn. You don't want that to happen. So that just ensures that all the grain lands in the top. When you're actually ready to, you've got all your grain in, you've got it stirred up, you've got all your dough balls out, you just put the recirc fitting back on and carry on, no problem. So what else comes with the kit? Hopefully you can see this. This is the hot bazooka that comes with the kit. We have a spare silicone washer. That looks like it's probably for the cam lock fitting. Put that to one side. We have a spare elbow for the pump, silicone again, and two tie wraps for securing the pump on. Obviously you'll have to cut the existing tie wraps off if you replace that elbow. Throwing things on the floor. And finally, the hot bazooka. Now that goes on the outlet. I'll show you where that goes. Now this is the one that comes with a unit. It's quite fine. I've heard stories of these getting blocked, especially if you're not putting your hops into a hop spider. So that can be quite challenging if you're trying to get your wort into the fermenter. That's the risky time after you've cooled it right the cold side of infection, etc. So as part of the kit came an additional option that I'm just going to talk through. This is traditionally secured with a clamp. The problem is with these clamps is that it's hard to get on and off, especially when you're cleaning. You don't want to be getting these things up. It's challenging to get on and off. You had a long day brewing. You don't want to be undoing these things. Plus, I think done up and undone a few times against this mesh is I tend to find these things tend to break up. So you're only going to end up with frayed around the end. So that's just what came with the kit. Paul's upgraded option in there, I think, is definitely worth having, and that's what Paul's option is here. We've got again a 3/8 half-inch BSP female to female coupling, which screws onto the bazooka, and then that screws onto the tap outlet inside the boil kettle. So that's super easy to assemble, disassemble. Doesn't have to be anything more than hand tight. In fact, less than hand tight is fine. You can see, hopefully on the overhead camera here, this is a more coarse mesh. So, I think it's going to suffer less from being blocked up. Yes, it will allow some of the smaller bits of particulate matter to get through into the fermenter potentially, but you just drain those out when you either secondary fermentation, or if you're like me and you use conicals, you can drain that trub off after 4 days. So that's a really good option. That came with a kit. Just put that to one side. It's the bag that keeps giving. So this is the pump inlet filter. Again, I've heard mixed things about these. People have talked about these getting clogged. I think if you're super careful when you're doughing in and you're using that fine hop spider, I'd hope that this would never become clogged, but you never say never. I'll test it and I'll provide some feedback on that. But that's there just to protect the pump. You really don't want your pump getting stuck in the middle of a brew. That's not a happy brew day. So, and then there's a couple of brass fittings here. I'll just get one of them out. So what you've got here is effectively, I think that's a 10mm, I'd say. That's a 10mm brass compression fitting. I'll show you how to fit these on in a bit, and how I would secure them actually. Let's see if I can put my hand. What I would use to secure that on is some PTFE tape. PTFE is great because it's completely inert. Don't use plumbers, mate. This is food safe. You can buy this B&Q, any plumbing shop. It's a sort of fine tape. So yeah, PTFE on anything, especially these, because they will have mains pressure water flowing through them, right? Because it's from the tap. So I'll show you how to fit that on the cooler in a minute. The bag that kept on giving has finished giving. So here we go. Here's the cooler, stainless steel, tons of wines on there, which is great. I actually prefer these. I do have a plate chiller and have been using plate chillers for a while. I actually prefer these. They're easier to clean. These are a bit of an unknown quantity because it's a sealed unit. What's inside? There could be a chunk of hop in there that you didn't know got in there, or a bit of grain or something that's in there mouldy and rotting and covered in yeast and bacteria, and then you're pumping your cold side cooled wort through it. So yeah, I think those feel like a lot of maintenance to me. Yes, they're brilliant and they use a lot less water, but I store my water, I wash the car with it afterwards, you know, it goes on the garden, whatever else. I don't let it get thrown away. So I prefer coils. I've got a hand copper one I wound myself. So yeah, this is the cooler. I have no doubt this will work brilliantly, and I always recirculate while I'm cooling as well. That definitely helps bring the temperature down quickly. So how do you fit these fittings? Just loosen it off. You should be able to slide it on then and take the fitting off like so. Slide that back. You see the olives on there now. Hopefully you can see that. You'll only be able to get it so far because it's obviously got a bend on there. But what I would do then is just wrap a little of that bit of that PTFE tape around the olive, and then neaten it up. Just turn it around, slide that fitting on, and do that up. Obviously, like so. Bear in mind that if these are done up tight, the olive will crush down on the pipe, and it's unlikely you'll remove the olive. They're not kind of reusable, so you need to make sure that fitting is pushed on all the way before you commit to doing it up properly. And then this, obviously there's some separate sections here, again, PTFE tape round here, and what you want to do is wind the PTFE tape the opposite way to the thread, so that when you do it up, it doesn't unwind the PTFE tape. You'll know if you've done it wrong, and you'll know if you've done it right, because if you've done it wrong as you're doing it up, the tape will start unwinding and become very messy. If you've done it the right way as you're doing it up, it'll stay neat, and that's the perfect solution for sealing those things up. And then obviously this is likely to be one of those tap fittings on there, if that's what you want to put on there. Okay, so that's the coil with the brass fittings. Obviously one for the hot side, one for the cooling side. My preference is, I've seen this discussed a few times, is to pump the cold water into the bottom, allow it to circulate up to the top and exit at the top, the hottest. That's because through convection, the top of the wort is going to be slightly warmer, and there's this sort of principle of shock cooling. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I'm sure somebody who's got a degree in fluid dynamics would probably tell you that it doesn't matter which way around you do it, and I think probably broadly that's true. So it doesn't really matter which way you put the cold or the hot on. My preference is to push the cold to the bottom and allow it to wind up and exit at the top. But go your own way. That's so much of what brewing's about, right? Is you've got a way you like to do things. Ultimately, you can probably achieve the same results by doing things 10 different ways when brewing. So go your own way. These are just my thoughts and ideas. So the next thing out of the box is the neoprene jacket. This is definitely a good option. This came with a kit. It looks really well made. It's well stitched. It's got Velcro on the side, holes for the handles. and there is a hole there for the tap as well. Hopefully you can see that. So that's a good option, and this is really going to help with that kind of flip-flopping activity you get when you're mashing, and you're losing a lot of thermal radiation to the environment, especially when you've not got an insulated pot. What you're going to end up with is this kind of sinusoidal behavior of your temperature. It's going to cool. The element's going to click on, and then it's going to overrun. Say you're mashing at 66, you're going to be up to 67, then it's down, then it's up, then it's down. Whereas anything you can do to stabilize how quickly the temperature is lost is going to mean that you're going to get less of this flip-flopping activity. Because you can then run the element at a lower wattage, then you get less spiking up, you get less heat cooling down. And actually this unit is brilliant for that. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a thick blown foam, double walled. This thing, you can pour water in it at 65 degrees and walk away for 4 hours and come back and it will be 63 degrees. So super efficient, friendly onto the electricity as well. So let's pull out the malt pipe next. Yeah, it's a seam welded stainless steel tube. It's got 2 holes for the handles, and then it has these feet. I'll show you those in a minute. In the description, these were listed as additional. I can't say for sure. The spot weldings do look slightly different than the ones on the bottom. So they may have actually been added. So that's certainly possible. Anyway, I expect Paul will comment and tell us whether that's true or not, or whether I've made that up. So yeah, there's a malt pipe. And finally, the BrewDevil itself. Right, just going to ditch the box. Okay, so we have the BrewDevil 50 Angel Homebrew BrewDevil 50 litre. So let's kind of work our way around. We have the pump recirculation pipe. So this is the outlet from the pump flowing up to a cam lock fitting on the top. Just a quick tip, you always control pumps. These types of liquid pumps, you always control on the output, never on the input. This is because of the way the pumps work. You should never vary the voltage into those pumps, and you should never try and control them on the inlet. I think it's to do with starving, but it's better at resisting than resisting when it's pushing than it is when it's pulling. I'm sure someone will comment maybe why in detail why that is. You've got a cam lock fitting on the top. Yeah, they're pretty standardly used in brewing. A bit of a two-handed affair in my opinion. I actually prefer these sprung fittings. Hopefully you can see those. You can work with these a bit more one-handed. You can kind of hold the pipe in, push in like so, and let go, or push it like that and pull the pipe out. It's just a personal preference. I think they're around the same cost. Paul sells all of those. I may swap those out. I probably won't. Cam locks are absolutely fine. So 1/2 inch tap on the side, ball valve with a little security, I guess you could look at a security device, stop it from knocking. You have to lift this up before you can turn it, no problem. You've got obviously a removable fitting here. This is a barb for hose, so you can put like a clamp around that, and you put your hose on, put a clamp around that if you like. Or you could, I guess, take this off and put a cam lock fitting or one of those quick release fittings straight on there, so you can just click a hose straight in. You've got the controller here on the front. There's a good video Jamie did at Bathtub Brews going through the controller in detail, and there's a few weird little tips and tricks he gave around how to do like full power for a minute and then take it down, and that helps you get up to boil quicker and stop some of those overrunning behaviours, so that's worth a watch. PCB switch, that's for turning the PCB printed circuit board, I believe that refers to, and the pump, so you've got the pump on off there, obviously a grating to let the hot air out of the bottom. Speaking of the bottom, hopefully you can see that just about. There is a flap in the bottom here where all the power cable is stored. You can just pop that open. There's a knockout there, so you can still stand the unit flat on the floor. So obviously we can see, hopefully you can see from the overhead camera, gradiated on the inside up to 45 litres. So 52 litres I believe is the maximum volume for this unit. I did notice the Beersmith profile for this unit has a boil volume of 52. You've got to be pretty brave, in my opinion, to boil at 52 litres. I've seen a few people doing it, full respect to them for doing it. I've never done a brew without getting a hot break, so my preference is to give myself a little bit of room for error. So you can see in the bottom, that's where the filter goes. Let's see if I can put my hand on it. Turn this around a little bit. There we go. So there's the pump filter we looked at earlier. That fits in there. The hot bazooka obviously goes directly on here. There we go. I'm not going to go mad with it, but as you can see, that's much easier than doing up a Jubilee clip. There's a tiny nipple here. I hope you can probably see that. I suspect that's a temperature probe to give you an idea of what's going on. Some people talk about pumping these into the fermenters, so when they finish their boil and they've done their rest or done any steep, they'll just pump it straight out of here, put the hose on, just turn this around and pump it straight into the fermenter. If I'm honest, I'm not a fan of that. I would much rather go out of the tap, because effectively, because the outlet for the pump is directly in the bottom of the unit, you're just going to pump all your trub. Well, sorry, not trub at this point, it'd be trub after it's been in the fermenter, but should we say all the protein, any grain, anything that's sitting in the bottom is going to get sucked through that pump hole. I prefer to be able to have a couple of inches from the bottom, at least an inch from the bottom of the unit, so I can leave some of that stuff behind. That's just a personal preference of mine. I've seen different people do it their own way. So let's have a little bit of a look at the malt pipe. So hopefully you can just about see this. There's the top set of feet there. They sit on those bars that were around the outside, you could see, and obviously you can then turn that and drop that down. So that you can sparge in stages, or if you've got a small grain bill, you may not want to lift it the whole way out, or it might be very heavy and you just appreciate being able to pause halfway up. Actually, you may have noticed, I've got a block and tackle here. I've actually got a dolly at the top and a sliding rail, so I can actually bring it out into the centre of the room. I had a back problem and back surgery a couple of years ago, so that was the only way I could carry on brewing. So top screen, bottom screen, obviously go in here. You may want to avert your ears. I will try to turn this down on the video. Yeah, a reasonably unpleasant affair, but hopefully you can see from the overhead camera. That's how it sits in there, and then you just adjust it to the height of your grain bill. That then drops down. So I know Sarah, in one of Sarah's videos, she talks about putting a bit of additional silicone hosing on two sides here, just because you don't want the malt pipe, when it's really heavy. People have mentioned that the malt pipe can fall through or bend past and fall through. So just by putting a little bit of extra pipe over, cutting it down its length and putting it over those two, can help resist that from happening. So I think that's probably worth doing. So what else have we got? We've got the recirculation pipe. Obviously the lid fits on like so. The recirculation pipe goes through here into the cam lock fitting. Cam lock fitting comes up, down, locked into place, and then obviously you can lift this up, put your hose on, etc. Whatever you want to do. I have seen people manage to wedge these in and stand them up so you can go hands free. Yep. And then you obviously be in recirculation mode, controlling how much liquid recirculates. By that, you don't need to go mad. You don't want it overflowing the overflow. Preference is for it not to come over the overflow. So if you've got wort coming in and going over the overflow, you probably want to slow it down so that all of the wort goes through the grain bed, and is there extracting and turning those starches into sugars and then extracting those sugars out. What else? Oh, we can put the recirculating arm in. That only works one way, so I'll show you that. I'm just going to lift that whole loop pipe out. So as you can see, I had to lift that pretty high to get over that. You'd imagine if that had 12 kilograms of grain in, that would be quite an affair. So most people tend to get these reasonably low down on the floor. My table's at this height, but again, I've got the block and tackle, so I don't have the challenge of having to lift the grain basket over my head. So let's have a look at the recirculation pipe. So the recirculation pipe, when you put it into the cam lock fitting, hopefully you can see that on the overhead camera. You're going to want to turn it in that direction. I think you can't quite get what I would consider to be quite the right angle. You really want it flowing directly against the edge of the unit, so that then it's creating that whirlpool and pushing all that debris into the centre, and then it's obviously away from the tap outlet. So as long as you flow out of here, you flow out at a reasonably steady rate, you're not going to pull too much of that particular matter out. So I never pump it out particularly quickly, because I'm aerating on the other side as well. So, yeah, just if you're using the whirlpool arm, that's how it works and how it fits. So I bought a couple of extra options with the unit, as I mentioned. One was a back flush adapter. Hopefully you can see that okay. It's basically a cam lock fitting with a hose fitting on. Paul sells these on his webpage. If you do get a stuck pump, for whatever reason, some hop gets in there or some grain gets in there and the pump isn't turning, that's going to affect the efficiency of your mash, and your ability to cool it down at the end or do any whirlpooling or steeping. So what you can do is lock that fitting on, make sure you've got that turned all the way to off, get your hose, turn it on, get the mains pressure on, and then just give that a tweak. Don't open it full, just give it a little bit of a tweak, try it again, give it a little bit of a tweak, try it again, because you don't want to be pumping lots and lots of liquid into the kettle. That's going to throw your numbers out, and you really just want to do enough to kind of unstick the pump. So that's just to help me out of a difficult spot. I thought that was worth having one of those tucked in the drawer. Hopefully I'll never need to use it, but if I do, I've got it. So, and the other final thing I purchased was the sight glass kit for this. As I said, I think volumes are particularly important in this, and the gradiated scale on the side of these, I've heard mixed results. People have had them and it's been bang on, and other people have had them and it's been, a litre off. So again, maybe I'm just being super anal about the volumes, but I think if you can control those or do that predictably, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So again, this unit is it's a threaded pipe that goes into a threaded fitting, 1/2 inch, 316 stainless steel. Yeah, 1/2 inch 3/8. Again, PTFE tape on both pieces. I would recommend. You don't want to be leaking hot sticky wort if you don't have to. Again, that'll mean you get a good solid fitting. You can take it apart easily and put it back together again easily to clean it. That assembles, like so. I would be cautious when tightening these things. Don't over tighten them. A, because you want to get them apart again to clean them, and B, this acrylic pipe isn't going to benefit from being over tightened. You're probably just likely to break the thread. So this obviously replaces the tap. Hopefully you can see that. You take the tap off, this fitting then goes into the tank, and then you refit the tap here. So if you want to change the style of tap, you can. I've got straight through ones with the quick release fittings on this unit. I might go a similar way and just put a simple tap on there. I may keep this one on. I haven't decided, but I'll talk you through that, or I'll show that as a separate video. And then obviously just fill the unit, water test it, and as you're filling the unit, just use your jug, put in 5 litres, use a marker, let it settle properly, give it time to settle, walk away, come back for 5 minutes, do your next one, and then you can build up your scale. And that feels pretty sturdy. I mean, once that's bolted in, you're not going to have to worry about that. So that was another optional extra I bought from Paul. Again, with the unit being above, being tall, and certainly maybe a challenge to see in when you've got a lot of steam going on, or you're not going to be able to see past the malt pipe. That's really going to give you a much better idea of where you are, how much liquid the grain may have soaked up, and etc. So I think that's it for the moment. That's what's in the box. That's what came with the kit. Those are the optional extras that I bought. First brew I'm going to be doing is a neck oil clone. It's a good, nice sessionette IPA, pretty forgiving to brew. It's got quite a large hop bill, so I'm quite keen to be able to program that complicated hop bill into the controller and see how I get on there. Thinking if there's any other tips or tricks that I can tell you about the unit now. No, I think that's it. Hopefully found this useful. You know, if you've got any questions, come on the Facebook group. I'll put a link in that in the description below. If you want to check out Paul's webpage, do. It's Angel Homebrewing. It'll be one of these top corners. If you've got any questions, bung them in the comments, or I would say join the Facebook group. There's loads of good people on there who have these units, or maybe have one of the other versions of this unit, who can answer your questions. But yeah, smash us a like if you like the video, and happy brewing, and I'll see you again soon. All right, thanks.